Happy Monday.
Right. Happy
How are
Monday.
you?
Well, it's freezing here in Iowa.
Yeah,
I mean,
I,
absolutely freezing. And I'm
I
recording,
heard
by the way, just so I don't have to, and I always think, what if I
that.
forget?
That's happened to me, so I get it.
Well, and today, just to let you know, I'm using a new microphone that was suggested for me. So I have it plugged into the laptop and I double check. So hopefully everything comes out good. Otherwise, I'll be begging you to do another recording.
I've had two times this happened to me. One was recording my own podcast. One was recording a podcast that I was a guest in, where we went for 2 hours and had this like super deep dive,
Oh my
like vulnerable
gosh.
conversation.
Yes.
Um, and then he got back to me the next week. He goes, "I'm so sorry. We don't know where the file went. Can we do this?" So don't worry. If we have to do it again, we'll do it again.
I've done that too, where I thought I lost the file, but I found it, right? So I know there's all these little quirky things, but yeah, it's freezing here, and
Oh,
I'm at
oh,
my townhome that's an Airbnb in downtown Des Moines. I don't live here, but nobody's here right now, so it makes it a great
okay.
recording space.
Beautiful background. I was gonna say.
Yeah, but that's about the gist of downtown though. Few buildings, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I went outside because the one of the screen doors had like kind of flown off, not flown off, but come off its hinges, and it was
Yeah.
absolutely freezing. I feel like I'm
Oh
kind
my
of
God.
tough, but I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get a jacket just to even bring that screen in. So
That's so
anyway,
funny.
you're in Florida. That's nice.
Yeah. It's always nice and warm here.
Well, thank you, Dr. Carlos, for being a part of the listening room and being here for the Coaching Collective Online. It is a pleasure to be speaking with you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yes, I'm glad we've connected, and I want you to be able to share more about yourself and what you do, and how, what path or what led you to become a psychologist today.
Yeah, so God, that's always such a like the biggest question, right? Tell us what sort of brought you here. Um, Really, it's been whether it's been my coaching work or my therapy work,
Mhm,
it's all started with me. It all came from my own journey. So really, right after high school, I joined the military and I was in the military for 6 years.
mhm.
And then I transitioned from the military to becoming a fireman and a paramedic. And I did that for almost 7 years before I went back to school at the age of 32 to get my doctorate degree in clinical psychology.
Wow.
And so that's usually where the question comes, right? Like
Yes.
what was that transition all about? But really it was all of the therapy that I sort of went through on my own
Hmm.
to deal with anxiety and depression in my 20s and 30s.
Hmm.
And therapy was such a like beautiful vehicle for self-reflection, for my own inner work.
Hmm.
And it had such a significant impact in shifting my life that I decided like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I walked away from a career as a fireman to go back to school, which led me to a very clinical based program where I really kind of learned what it meant to be a therapist. And it was really funny because the first year was all sort of coursework and classwork. And then the second year is when you start getting exposed to working with clients. And I remember sitting in that room at my first session and just being like, oh, this feels familiar. This feels like home. Like this is what I was meant to do. And that's kind of, that's what kind of led me to this work in the field of psychology and having built my own practice and sort of integrating then some of the coaching work to the therapy work. And really the shift there for me, Pam, was, you know, I think we've made a lot of headway in terms of the stigma around going to see a therapist in this country, right? It's not the same that it was 10 years ago, but there's still a lot of blocks there for people. And so I found that in my work, if I sort of told people that I was a coach, that opened a lot of doors, right? It was sort of like a new level of access for people to come and see me and do their inner work. And so that's how I got into a little bit of the coaching space. And then I recognized that like movement is movement and healing is healing. And then when we become the best versions of ourselves, we then go out into the world and create better companies, better families, a better society. And so then that's why in the last couple of years, I've shifted my therapy work to more of a sort of corporate wellness, and that kind of stuff as well.
Well, you have done lots of admirable work. Thank you for serving in the military and being a firefighter and now becoming, would you call yourself a life coach then and psychologist?
I'll tell you what, I will call myself whatever will make you come through my door to do your own work. I'll call myself whatever you want me
Right.
to be called, a healer, a shaman. I'll call myself whatever, as long as it's the vehicle that sort of invites somebody in with
hmm
curiosity to want to do their own inner work, right?
hmm
Yeah.
Yes, I know those words mean a lot too. I know back in the day, like you were saying, it did seem like maybe something was really innately wrong with you, maybe unfixable, so to speak, if you went to go see a therapist or a psychologist. And yeah, I don't think I know anybody that has not seen some type of counselor or therapist or
Yeah.
coach,
Yeah.
psychologist. Um, yeah, I feel like everybody talks so highly about these wellness professionals.
Yeah, which is music to my ears, because when I was in my deepest struggle, in
hmm
my darkest moments, and I know that a lot of that has to do with the narratives that I carried about, growing up as a Hispanic male,
hmm
just a male in this society, right? We don't cry, we don't share our struggles. You carry the load. It's weak to ask for help. So that's sort of the era that I grew up in. And so what music to my ears to see and to experience so many people moving past that barrier to say like, hey, yeah, I just went to my therapist and look what I learned, like that. Like, I struggled in silence for so many years because that wasn't the narrative in society. And so that now it's a more open dialogue, and conversation is so amazing.
That's nice to hear. I myself have my mom's side, the family is Hispanic, and I know that in living in different areas of the country, it can feel like culture shock too, and like how you're accepted, what you're, how tan you are, or, how dark your hair is, how much hair you have. I mean, there's all these stereotypes, um, um, in the world, right? And so it takes like a lot of personal self-talk. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I've experienced
Yeah. Yeah.
and life experience to really
Totally.
get to some place where you can do like what you're doing today.
Yeah.
You're helping other people, and that's great. I think that what a great asset to have you out there in this world, be accessible to people,
Yeah. Thank you, Pam.
accessible to men, right? And
Yeah.
you say, what does your clientele look like? Is it balanced or more?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a lot of men that come to me naturally, just because of some of my past careers, right? Like, I think they can appreciate that there was this tough version of me, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I do have a lot of women that come to me as well. I'd probably say it's about 60-40 men to women.
hmm
Um, and I think, Pam, it's less about the sex or the gender, and it's more about, I think you and I maybe even talked about this, right? Sort of masculine versus feminine energy.
hmm
And, I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe that each and every one of us has those different aspects available to us. We
hmm
just lean in one direction or another. But that the most balanced version of us has an equal amount, right? And so I say that, I'm a male, and yes, I was a Marine and all of this stuff, but I have a very strong feminine energy that I lean into,
hmm
because it allows me to show up with more vulnerability in the world. It allows me to show up with more love and compassion. It allows me to show up in a way where I can, create some distance from this. I don't know, right? We hear these terms like toxic masculinity, and these old narratives that can keep us trapped sometimes in versions of us that we're trying to grow through.
hmm
And so I think that I am a doorway for a lot of men that are ready to let go of some of those things that are no longer serving them.
Do you feel like sharing any part of your past to present where you experienced kind of like a breakthrough or quite a bit of growth?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is how I've learned to navigate emotions and how I understand emotions.
Hmm.
And so here's the sort of story that I lean into, right? Again, I grew up in a house with a very disciplinary, very authoritarian father
Hmm.
who didn't have a lot of tolerance for the expression of what we call negative emotions, right? Sadness, grief, right? Tr emotions that we have traditionally assigned to girls being okay having, right? Well, 2 weeks after I leave my home as a young man, I go into the military.
Hmm.
And so we understand how the military feels about emotion, right? Like
Right.
the narrative is
Yeah.
that like having emotions is weak and
Hmm.
there's no tolerance for it. But here's the truth about many of us, Pam, like we might have grown up in a generation or a culture um, or an era where we received a similar message. If we felt disappointed, if we felt afraid, if we felt sad,
Hmm.
we were given this message that like that version of us is not okay, right? We got judgment, we got shame, suck it up.
Hmm.
Why are you being so sensitive, right? Some message that was probably intended by our parents to teach us how to be resilient. But
Hmm.
here was the major flaw in that system. It didn't mean that we were going to have stop having those hard experiences.
Hmm.
Like as an adult, I can imagine that in the last several years of your life, you've dealt with disappointment,
Oh, yes. Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Shame, guilt,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, sadness, right? Like we're
Hmm.
not immune to any of that. But what happened for many of us that didn't get the opportunity to navigate those emotions early on in our development
Hmm.
was that we became shameful of them.
Yeah, because it was wrong for you to be experiencing this, and you never got to work through it, so it's probably
Right.
stuffed down. Yeah.
So what we learned exactly.
Yeah.
What most of us unconsciously learned how to do was to repress all of those emotions.
Hmm.
Well, the problem with that is that later on in life, when we don't get the job that we wanted, our first major breakup, right, like didn't get into the college, right? We lose a loved one. These emotions need to be processed and worked through, and most of us don't know what the heck to do with them because we've kept them behind this closet like these dirty little monsters, and
Yeah.
we're terrified of them.
Hmm.
So part of why I was struggling with so much anxiety and depression, I only learned when I finally went to a therapist, and my therapist is like, Carlos, you've been consciously and unconsciously repressing every emotion you've ever had for most of your life. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
It was the most validating thing that had ever been expressed to me. Like, oh, I'm not broken. And, you know,
Yeah.
for my empaths out there, I'm a very sensitive person. Like I feel things very deeply, both happiness and anger and sad and all of that. And I was that when I was a little boy. But because I didn't have the opportunities to learn how to express that in a healthy way, I was pushing all of it away. And in the pushing of all of it away, it didn't have anywhere to go. So how did I cope? Back then, it was drinking, it was jumping from relationship to relationship in an unhealthy way. It was
Mhm.
avoidance, it was, substance use, it was all of these ways that were causing me a lot of pain and distress for the people around me too.
Yeah. Sure.
Right. So the
I,
big shift to answer your question was having gone to therapy and recognized, like, oh, now I know how to work with these thoughts and these narratives and these stories that I adopted from my childhood. Now I know how to feel. And really, when I started to allow myself to feel, it was the game changer. I
hmm.
saw how much freedom it gave me in life. I saw um, how much less fear I needed to walk in the world with. And it was at that point, Pam, that I said to myself, I want to be a walking permission slip for people to take off their mask.
Hmm.
I want to open up conversations in a vulnerable way. I want to share my struggles so that I can give permission for someone else to see that their struggles are real too, right?
Yes. I have a similar little story of what when I went to therapy going through a divorce. And it feels like you're grieving because you are grieving, especially if
Yeah,
you've been with this person for years.
totally.
I was told to let that sadness set in, and I thought, what? I don't want
What
to
does that even mean,
feel
right? Yeah.
sad. I don't want it to set in. But I did what she advised me to, and I let it set in each time. And as time went on, and each time I did that, the very last few times that I thought, oh, here comes another crying spell, the shorter those crying spells, it's as if it healed itself by just letting those emotions ride through, to where then I didn't I didn't have those very, sad, dark moments that seem like they
Yes.
would never go away.
Yes.
And they
You
do.
can't, yes, you can't heal what you don't feel,
I like
right? And
mm,
that's a perfect representation because that's what I learned as well. The actual emotion
mhm,
won't last in our bodies for more than 60 to 90 seconds. But think about the narratives that we have adopted around letting ourselves feel. It'll pull me under, it'll be too much, I won't recover. These are all stories, right? Because what did we hear growing up, right? Don't wallow in your emotions, the pity, that's all people that gave us messages that weren't even comfortable letting themselves feel,
mhm,
much less letting us feel.
yeah.
But what I have learned, right, is that when we allow ourselves to confront that fear, the pain, the hurt, the grief,
Mhm,
the shame, and just allow ourselves to be with it, to arise within us, to be felt, it starts to heal us. It starts to go away. It stays less long. It right, like it becomes right this thing that just moves through us versus us just sitting with it. It's when we try to push it away that it stays. What we resist persists, right? I'm sure many people have heard that.
well, I don't know, but I like it. It's really
Yeah,
good. It
yeah,
resonates and it makes
yeah,
a lot of sense.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some daily wellness rituals that you do? Because I also feel like sometimes some people will slip back sometimes in those into those sad memories, so to speak. So what are some daily rituals that you do to help keep yourself grounded and present?
Yeah, so mindfulness is a daily practice for me, and I can really get into more of what that looks like. But meditation is my go-to. Sometimes that's in the morning, sometimes it's in the evening, sometimes it's in the middle of my day if things are feeling tense. And that's just really carving out a space for me to be with my thoughts, for me to be with whatever emotions are arising, and to just kind of quiet down, to center myself, to get anchored in the here and now. Journaling is another big one for me. If there's a lot of chaos going on up here in my thoughts,
Yeah.
it's a really beautiful way to just kind of sit down and give an outward expression to whatever's living on the inside, whether that's an emotion or a thought.
Yeah.
Um, and then yoga. Yoga is another big one for me. It's a just great way of getting out of the mind and into the body. Obviously, these are, practices that can have like some, spiritual sort of undertones to it. For me, it really does. So even like, just wearing my beads, that for me is a reminder. If I'm going through my day and I get lost in like, oh my God, what has to happen next week or tomorrow, or just like I get too caught up in the chaos of my thoughts, it's a reminder to be in the present moment. Because the truth is, for most of us, right, like part of what we experience the most distresses in our life is because we're focusing on the past, something that we can't change, or we're too far off in the future trying to predict something that we don't know is going to happen, right? And so that's a lot of where we can create anxiety and depression. And so for me, being here now is a really great way to stay anchored.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some similar practices too, and I feel it really helps ground you and keep you present. And all of those things that you mentioned, I feel wraps it all up to where you're meditating,
Yeah.
and you're letting emotions come in and, giving yourself that grace of whatever you're feeling is okay and letting that happen.
Yeah.
Journaling it, writing it down. They say, writing things down really makes a big difference. And then the yoga piece and bringing in breath work. Also, that's kind of like a form of meditation, I feel too, right? And then
Yeah.
that exercise and getting all the blood flowing and helping you focus on the
Totally.
here and now. That's
Yeah.
really good. It's great.
Yeah. And I think you said something else there, Pam, like, I think sometimes we become so afraid, like the way you sort of posed that question was like, so that we're not thinking about these past events. Um, I think that these are all great tools that we just talked about.
Hmm.
And I think we need to be very mindful that we're not using those tools to further avoid,
Oh, true. Good point. Hmm.
because there's a lot of that out there.
Yes.
Um, the truth is, and I posted something about this in my on my Instagram the other day, but like that feeling and that thought that continues to come up,
Hmm.
that doesn't go away, it's there for a reason. It means that there's something that's living in you that feels unresolved. And we can call that trauma. We can call it an experience of abandonment. We can call it an adverse event. We can call it whatever. But for a lot of us, until we face that within ourselves, it's not going to go away. It's going to keep sort of like, it's like picking at a scab, right?
Yeah.
And so, how do we develop these practices in a way to make ourselves feel more resilient so that we can face some of those things that need to be faced? Because that's where the healing really lies,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I think about all of the therapy that I've done. And then last year, I went on a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And it was really interesting when you don't give your brain any distractions or anything to do. Eventually, what happens is that the unresolved stuff
Hmm.
will come to the surface. And I truly believe that, like, our body and our minds know how to heal themselves if we just give it the space to do so. And so, what happened in this retreat was some old wounds from my childhood around abandonment
Hmm.
came up to the surface to be felt. And I thought to myself, wait a second, like I've worked through this in therapy.
Hmm.
I worked through it in therapy intellectually. I was like, oh, this is my story. And now I have insight about it and how that impacted my life. But I had never allowed myself the opportunity to feel the pain and the grief of that work. And yet, on this silent meditation retreat on day 5, when my mind had nothing else to occupy itself with, this thing got felt and then it was gone. It was no longer a thought. It no longer comes up as a feeling because it's been healed. It's been worked through. So I think that's important for people to know, right?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it is because those are daily practices. But for people who have not done the work, really looked inward and have some type of wellness professional along their side to help them have an objective point of
Totally.
view and be there for support and
Yeah.
guidance and walk them through certain steps. It is, I mean, it's important that they do that healing, and sometimes we feel like we are doing it, but until we get the right wellness professional that really looks at things and is seeing
Yeah.
and hearing what you're doing, what you've done, what you're experiencing, until you get the right person to ask those right questions and get that specific, unique guidance, you
Right.
are kind of out. You're doing the best you can, but there's more help out there for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
better outcome.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I truly believe that too.
Well, I've noticed you post quite a bit about maybe certain retreats and different wellness workshops and whatnot. And what else are you working on, or what's next?
Yeah, I have two sort of major projects. So I just sold my practice last year after building it for about 8 years and kind of walked away from that. And then I've been sort of like the next, 6 months to kind of figure out what was next and what
Mhm.
was my calling and where did I want to put my time and energy. And right now that's two things. So the first one is my podcast, which is called the Human Experience Podcast.
Okay.
And it's all about sort of weaving in spirituality into the human experience and our human struggle. And a part of that is the second book I'm going to write, which is going to be about the human experience. And we're going to be doing sort of talks. where we sort of bring community together during events, again, to just talk about the human experience, to talk about how we integrate spirituality, whatever that might mean for us. And so that's one major project that I'm working on. The other one is a little bit more local here to the Tampa area, and it's a community for men and leaders and entrepreneurs who are looking to find more freedom and more balance in their lives,
Mhm.
whether that's in their lives at home with their spouses and kids or in their work. And really, the sort of thread that runs through all of that is like, again, right, to what we talked about earlier, Pam, is like, how do we create more and more opportunities for people to bring curiosity to themselves so that they can lean in and start to do the inner work to heal themselves? Because I don't think this is news to anybody, but the more work we do on ourselves, the better vehicles we become for change in society, right? The better leaders we become in our families, in our communities, in our churches, and eventually in the world.
Mhm.
And so for me, my goal is like where do I just create those spaces where people are ready to lean in and bring the best versions of themselves.
What an awesome story. And thank you for
Thank
sharing all
you.
of that. Where can people find you? I know you mentioned your second book. What's the name of your
Yeah.
first book? And then where can people find you?
Yeah, so my first book is called The Unseen Journey: Awakening Curiosity and Trust in the Corporate World.
Mhm.
They can find that on Amazon or on my website, which is drcarlos.com.
Mhm.
And that book is really about anybody who's sort of had an experience in the corporate world, is in the corporate world, about ways that we can show up better there when we do our work. Or people can also find me, Pam, on my Instagram. That's probably where I'm a little bit, probably most active, and that's Dr. Carlos A. Garcia.
That's great. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Carlos.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure speaking with you again, and hopefully we have another opportunity to have more conversations. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you for what you're doing. I'm a big fan of your work and all of the amazing stuff that you're putting out there. Thank you for being such a light in the world and leading the way for so many of us.
Same to you. Thank you. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye.